So if you haven't seen it yet, the US Federal Reserve just released a ton of numbers. And basically these numbers pertain to Gen Z and how hard they're working. So if we take a look at these numbers, what it tells us is Gen Z is the hardest working generation ever. And if these same people were working the same hours with the same jobs in the 1940s, 1 in 3 would be retired millionaires at 40 years old. All right, so we need to hop into this stuff. Before I do, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You don't even have to come back to this channel ever again. I've only got 5 followers, and I think I need to get a couple more in that. So go ahead, hit that button, and let's talk about this. All right, so I guess just me, I'm not an economist, but I boil this down to 4 different things that are keeping the current generation poor. So number 1 is going to be student loans. 2 is going to be healthcare costs. 3, transportation costs, and 4, housing costs. So you guys already know everything about housing costs. If you're especially a Gen Z, you've probably been looking at the housing market and just kind of felt on the sidelines. I mean, houses are egregiously priced, plus the huge interest rates. I mean, it's absolutely insane to be buying a house in your 20s, okay? So the median home buying age will probably end up for our generation being mid to late 30s, which again is absolutely absurd. And I guess I don't want to get too far into this, but I saw a comment on one of my last videos talking about housing costs. And basically this comment said, the older generations had higher interest rates and they had it harder. I agree with you. Yes, the economy shows us and historical data shows us that they did in fact have higher interest rates. But for example, take a 15% interest rate on a $40,000 home back in, 1980, and then take it in 2025, a 6% interest rate on that same home, which is now $400,000, right? The interest rate compounds with the price of the house. So even though we have a lower interest rate now, we are paying way more money out of our, more than low incomes to be able to afford these houses, more than, they had to sacrifice way back when. But again, that can be an argument that we take to the comment section. So go ahead and let me know your thoughts on that. All right, so now we need to move on to why the Federal Reserve says that Gen Z is the hardest working group of citizens ever. Basically, this boils down to a couple things. Number 1 is going to be the amount of time worked. So the previous 3 generations had a combined household amount of working hours of 38.5 hours per week. So just a little bit less than the full-time 40 hours a week that is expected to be, worked at your job. Just a little bit shy of that. And this was kind of absurd to me, but Gen Z had a combined household amount of weekly working time of 93 hours. So what this tells us is probably, way back then, it was just, the father working the job, and he's working 38 and a half hours a week. But now, in order to afford a similar, if not, less than luxury lifestyle, 2 grown adults are expected to both work, 45, 46 hours a week each, just to afford a less than low quality of life living in an apartment or a really shitty house. Now, I'm already 4 minutes into the video, so I don't think I can break it all down today, but we'll just do a brief summary of the other things I talked about. Number 1, student loans. This boils down to the absurdly high interest rates. Just like I said in the past, going to a school in the U.S., a university, is going to cost you $100,000 to $200,000. And when you're coming out, you took all of those loans out and you became a teacher, or something that doesn't pay a great salary in 2025, that interest is just going to keep compounding. And, 20 years down the line, you will have paid $200,000, but your loan still has $180,000 left on the full balance, right? And so basically these salaries that we're getting from these jobs do not boil down correctly in order to pay these things off that they had to take to get that job in the first place. So, I mean, there's some different options out there. If I could go back to college, I do the exact same thing. I got an architect degree and that pays extremely well. So I'm very grateful that I made that decision. But if you haven't entered college yet and you're still young, highly recommend looking at a community college first, or even just going into the trades as a first option. These are going to set you up for a long play of success. But going back to college for something that pays $50,000 a year is no longer a good option. All right, two more things here. Transportation costs. You guys have seen it. Cars are going for an absurd amount of money right now, especially the used car market. And basically, this is fake propaganda set up by the car companies like Toyota, Chevy, all the big names. They have lowered their supply in order to bring the prices up of old used vehicles and able to raise the prices of their new vehicles. I have a whole nother video on that, so go ahead and check that out on my channel. And finally, the last thing, healthcare costs. You guys know all about this. Again, things are way too overpriced right now. So with that being said, I guess I kind of broke it down here in 6 minutes. I didn't really dive too deep into what the Federal Reserve data has. And so if you want me to go further into that, go ahead and let me know in the comments. But again, if you made it this far, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It helps me out a lot. And you probably won't even see my channel again anyway. So just do it, guys. Just do it. But appreciate y'all for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.